The sound of Rose Okafor's palm connecting with Kang Min-Jae's face rang through VIP room 7 like a gunshot. For exactly 3 seconds, nobody moved. Min-Jae's head had snapped to the side with the force of it. A thin line of blood appeared at the corner of his mouth where his teeth had caught his inner cheek. His 4 companions, men in expensive suits who'd been laughing at some joke she'd interrupted, froze with their glasses halfway to their lips. Rose's hand stung. Her chest heaved. The words he'd just said still hung in the air between them like smoke. "How much for the night?" "I'll pay double what you make here." She hadn't planned to hit him. She'd come into the room with a professional smile and a water pitcher, had endured 11 hours of casual disrespect from customers who saw her as either invisible or disposable. But something about the way he'd said it, the lazy confidence, the assumption that everything had a price, including her, had snapped the last thread of her restraint. "I am not a prostitute," she said, her voice steady despite the adrenaline flooding her system. "I am a waitress." Min-Jae turned his head slowly back to face her. He touched his split lip with 2 fingers, examined the blood, then smiled. It was the smile that terrified her more than anything else. Calm, genuinely amused, and absolutely devoid of anger. "Interesting," he said softly. One of his companions stood abruptly, hand moving toward his jacket. "Hyungnim, should I?" "Sit down, Sang-ho." Min-Jae didn't raise his voice. He didn't need to. The man Saturday. Rose's survival instincts finally caught up with her fury. She took in the room properly for the first time, the way everyone deferred to the man she'd just struck, the quality of his watch, easily worth more than she made in a year, the snake tattoo that crawled up from his collar when he moved. The absolute stillness of dangerous men waiting for orders. Oh God! What have I done? 20 minutes earlier, Rose had been counting down the minutes until midnight. Her feet ached in the practical but unflattering black shoes all the servers wore. Her lower back throbbed with that special kind of pain that came from carrying heavy trays and bending over tables for 11 straight hours. The smile she'd plastered on at the start of her shift had worn thin around hour 7 and cracked completely by hour 9. She was wiping down table 4, her third-to-last task before freedom, when manager Kim appeared beside her with that apologetic expression that meant her night was about to get longer. "Rose sigh." He wrung his hands. "VIP room 7 needs service. Sujin just left, her mother's in the hospital." Rose closed her eyes briefly. VIP rooms meant wealthy clients who stayed late, tipped well if you were lucky, and made complaints like an art form if you weren't. "It's just 1 table," manager Kim continued. "They've been there since 9. Probably just want the check." Probably. That word carried a lot of weight. "Fine," she said, because what else could she say? She needed this job. Her family in Lagos needed the money she sent home every month. Her younger brother's university fees weren't going to pay themselves. She collected a fresh pitcher of water and headed toward the private rooms at the back of the restaurant. The hallway was quieter here, insulated from the main dining area by thick walls and heavy doors. Red paper lanterns cast warm shadows that might have been romantic if she wasn't so exhausted. Room 7's door stood slightly ajar. She could hear laughter inside, the easy, careless sound of men who'd never worried about rent or visa renewals. Rose knocked twice, waited for the customary "come in," then pushed the door open with her hip. 5 men sat around a low table laden with empty soju bottles and picked over dishes. They'd clearly been there for hours, judging by the glassy eyes and loosened ties. Money practically radiated from them. Designer suits, expensive watches, the kind of casual wealth that made people like Rose invisible. "Good evening," she said in her best customer service Korean, setting down the water pitcher. "Can I bring you anything else, or would you like the check?" The man at the head of the table looked up at her. Later, Rose would remember this moment in fragments, the way the light caught his sharp cheekbones, the snake tattoo that curled up from beneath his collar, the absolute stillness in his dark eyes that contrasted with his companion's drunken energy. He wasn't the loudest person in the room, but somehow he was the center of it. "You're new," he said. It wasn't a question. "I've worked here 6 months, sir." His gaze traveled over her face with clinical interest, like she was a painting he was considering purchasing. "Nigerian?" "Yes, sir." "Your Korean is good." Thank you, sir. One of his companions, a man with a red face and loosened tie, snorted. Hyungnim, you're being too polite. That's not what she's here for. He turned to Rose with bleary eyes. How much extra do you charge for private service? Rose's smile tightened. She'd encountered this before, the assumption that foreign women working service jobs were available for purchase. I'm not sure what you mean, sir. If you'd like to order more food. He means, the man at the head of the table interrupted smoothly, how much would it cost for you to leave with him tonight? The room went very quiet. Rose looked directly at him. His expression was neutral, almost bored, but there was something calculating in his eyes. He was testing her somehow, though she couldn't imagine why. I'm a waitress, she said carefully. Not an escort. Everything has a price. He pulled out his wallet, black leather, thick with bills, and set it on the table between them. Name yours. The casual disrespect of it took her breath away. Not the offer itself, she'd gotten those before and learned to deflect them with diplomatic refusals. But the way he did it, the absolute certainty in his voice that she would name a figure and he would pay it, that this was simply how the world worked. I don't have a price, Rose said. Her voice came out harder than she intended. He smiled. Everyone does. Some people just haven't found it yet. He opened the wallet, pulled out several bills without counting them. Here. For your time tonight. Consider it a generous tip for excellent service. The bills fluttered onto the table. Rose couldn't help but see the zeros, more than she made in a week. Maybe 2 weeks. Her hands clenched into fists at her sides. How much for the night? He asked, his tone as casual as if he were asking about menu prices. I'll pay double what you make here. That's when she hit him. Now, standing in the awful silence following the slap, Rose watched Min-Jae touch his bleeding lip and smile, and understood she'd made a catastrophic mistake. She started. Don't apologize, he said quietly. It would be disappointing. His companions remained frozen. One had half risen from his seat, hand inside his jacket. Another stared at her like she'd sprouted wings. The drunk one who'd started this whole thing had sobered up remarkably fast. Rose forced herself to meet Min-Jae's eyes. If she was going to be fired, or worse, she wouldn't give him the satisfaction of seeing her cower. You insulted me, she said. I made you an offer. You assumed I was for sale. Aren't we all? He tilted his head, genuinely curious. You sell your time, your labor, your smile to customers who treat you like furniture. I was simply offering better. There's a difference between earning wages and being bought. Is there? The question hung in the air. Rose became aware of sweat cooling on her back, of the too fast beating of her heart, of the water pitcher she still held in her left hand like a forgotten prop. Min-Jae leaned back against the cushioned wall, studying her with that unsettling intensity. What's your name? Rose. Your full name? Rose Okafor. Well, Rose Okafor. He dabbed at his lip again, examined the blood with clinical interest. You have remarkable courage. Or remarkable stupidity. I haven't decided which. One of his men leaned forward. Hyungnim, should we? No. Min-Jae cut him off without looking away from Rose. Ms. Okafor was defending her dignity. I can respect that. He paused. Even if her methods were unconventional. Rose's throat felt tight. Are you going to have me fired? Oh, absolutely. He smiled again, that terrifying calm smile. You assaulted a customer. Manager Kim will have no choice. He picked up one of the bills from the table, held it up between 2 fingers. But perhaps we can discuss alternative employment. I don't want your money. Everyone wants money, Ms. Okafor. It's just a question of what they're willing to do for it. Then I'm the exception. Something flickered in his expression. Surprise, maybe, or intrigue. We'll see. He gestured to the door. You can go. For now. Rose didn't move immediately. Walking away felt like retreat, like acknowledging his power over her. But staying felt like suicide. She set the water pitcher down on the table with deliberate care, picked up the bills he'd thrown at her, and placed them in front of him. "I don't need your tip," she said. Then she turned and walked out, her spine straight, her hands shaking. Behind her, she heard someone exhale sharply. Then, worse, she heard Min-Jae laugh. Not the cruel laughter of humiliation, but genuine amusement, rich and unexpected. "Sang-ho," he said, voice carrying through the open door. "Find out everything about her. Where she lives, why she's in Seoul, family back home. Everything." Rose's steps faltered for just a moment. Then she kept walking. The main dining room had mostly cleared out. The few remaining customers were finishing their meals, unaware of what had just happened in VIP room 7. Rose's co-workers looked up as she emerged from the hallway. Min-Jae at the host stand, Dae-jung clearing tables, Young-suk counting receipts. Min-Jae's eyes widened. "Are you okay? You look like you've seen a ghost." "I'm fine." Rose heard how unconvincing she sounded. "The VIP room. Everything okay there?" "They're finishing up." Rose grabbed her order pad from behind the counter, needing something to do with her hands. "They'll probably want the check soon." "You didn't let manager Kim send you in there, did you?" Young-suk looked up from her receipts, concerned. "I heard that group, they're not regular customers. Someone said." "Said what?" Young-suk exchanged a glance with Min-Jae. "Nothing. Rumors." The door to room 7 opened. Min-Jae's companions filed out first, moving with the careful coordination of men who were used to watching each other's backs. They didn't look at Rose as they passed, which was somehow worse than if they had. Then Min-Jae himself emerged. In the brighter light of the main dining room, Rose could see him more clearly. Early 30s, perhaps. Sharp features that might have been handsome if they weren't so cold. He moved like someone who'd never been afraid of anything in his life, or had trained himself to hide it so completely it amounted to the same thing. He stopped at the host stand where Min-Jae stood paralyzed, pulled out a black credit card, and settled the bill without looking at the total. As he signed the receipt, he glanced across the room to where Rose stood frozen by the service counter. Their eyes met. He inclined his head slightly, a gesture that could have been respect or mockery or something more complicated, then walked out. The moment the door closed behind him, Young-suk grabbed Rose's arm. "What happened?" "Nothing. Your hand is shaking." Rose looked down. Her right hand, the one that had struck him, trembled visibly. She shoved it into her apron pocket. "Rose." Young-suk's voice dropped to a whisper. "Do you know who that was?" "A customer." That was Kang Min-Jae. The name meant nothing to Rose. Young-suk's expression said it should. "He owns half of Gangnam," Young-suk continued, her voice barely audible. "Restaurants, clubs, entertainment companies. And that's just what's legal." She paused meaningfully. "He has connections. The kind you don't want to have." Rose's stomach dropped. "What kind of connections?" "The kind where people who upset him tend to disappear or suddenly decide to leave Seoul." Young-suk studied her face. "What did you do?" "I..." Rose couldn't say it. Couldn't admit that she'd slapped a man who apparently owned half the district and had mafia connections. He was rude. And I told him I wasn't interested in his money." Dae-jung, who'd been eavesdropping while pretending to wipe down a nearby table, whistled low. "You turned down Kang Min-Jae's money. Are you insane?" "He thought I was..." Rose cut herself off. "It doesn't matter." "It matters a lot." Young-suk looked genuinely worried. "Rose, you need to be careful. Men like that don't forget slights. And they especially don't forget being refused." "He seemed fine when he left." "That's what makes it worse." Dae-jung set down his cleaning cloth. "If he was angry, you'd know where you stood. But if he's interested..." He shook his head. "Just watch yourself, okay?" Manager Kim emerged from his office, looking harried. "Rose-sai, can you come here please?" Rose's heart sank. This was it. She was about to be fired, probably with a lecture about respecting customers and maintaining the restaurant's reputation. She followed him into the cramped office, preparing her responses. But Manager Kim didn't look angry. He looked confused. "The customer from room 7, he said slowly. "Mr. Kang. Did something happen?" He was satisfied with the service. The lie tasted like ash. He left a very generous tip. Manager Kim showed her the receipt. The tip line had an amount that made Rose's breath catch, 50,000 won. Nearly $50 for less than 10 minutes of service. He also left this. He handed her a business card. Heavy stock, minimalist design. Just a name, Kang Min-Jae, and a phone number. He said to give it to you personally. Rose stared at the card. On the back, written in precise Hangul, was a message, for when you change your mind about having a price. KMJ. Rose sigh. Manager Kim looked uncertain. "Is everything all right?" "Yes." She pocketed the card because refusing it would require explanations she didn't want to give. "Everything's fine." It was only when she finally left the restaurant at 12:30 a.m., 30 minutes past the end of her shift, that Rose let herself feel the full weight of what had happened. She'd slapped a mafia boss. He'd smiled. And somehow, that was so much worse than if he'd threatened her. Seoul streets were quieter now, the late-night crowd thinning out. Rose walked to the subway station on autopilot, her mind replaying the moment over and over. The feel of her palm connecting with his face. The blood at the corner of his mouth. That terrible, amused smile. Everyone has a price. Her phone buzzed. A text from her mother in Lagos. "How is work? Your brother asks about the money for his textbooks." Rose closed her eyes. She sent home 40% of her salary every month. Her family depended on it. She couldn't afford to lose this job. But she also couldn't afford to become the kind of person who accepted being treated like merchandise. The business card felt like a live coal in her pocket. When she got home to her tiny studio apartment in a neighborhood where rent was cheap because nothing else was, Rose pulled out the card and stared at it for a long time. Then she tore it in half and threw it in the trash. Whatever Kang Min-Jae wanted from her, amusement, conquest, or something else entirely, he would have to want it unsatisfied. Rose Okafor was many things. Broke, exhausted, far from home. But she was not for sale. She didn't know yet that refusing a man like Kang Min-Jae was less like closing a door and more like issuing an invitation. Some men lose interest when you say no. Dangerous men see it as a challenge. Rose arrived at work the next evening expecting to find a termination letter waiting for her. Instead, she found Kang Min-Jae sitting in her section. He occupied table 14, a two-top near the window with a view of the street, reading something on his phone with the same clinical focus he'd turned on her the night before. No companions this time. Just him, a glass of water he hadn't touched, and an aura of controlled danger that made the surrounding tables unconsciously lean away. Rose stopped dead in the service corridor. "No," she whispered to no one in particular. Young-suk appeared at her elbow, eyes wide. "He requested you specifically." Manager Kim nearly had a heart attack. "Tell him I'm sick. And have him think you're hiding. Are you insane?" Young-suk shoved a menu at her. "Just be polite, take his order, and for the love of God, don't slap him again." "I didn't," Rose cut herself off. There was no point denying it. Young-suk knew. Daejung knew. Probably everyone in the restaurant knew by now. What does he want? How should I know? Maybe he wants to apologize. Men like that don't apologize. Then maybe he wants to finish what you started. Young-suk gave her a meaningful look. Either way, you can't refuse to serve him. Manager Kim's orders. Rose took the menu with numb fingers. Her hands had stopped shaking sometime around 3 a.m. when she'd finally fallen asleep, but now the tremor threatened to return. She forced it down through sheer will. "I am a waitress. I take orders and bring food. That's all this is." She crossed the dining room with her professional smile locked in place, hyper-aware of Min-Jae tracking her approach without lifting his head from his phone. When she reached his table, he looked up. "Good evening, sir. Can I start you with something to drink?" "Whiskey. Neat." He set down his phone. "And stop calling me sir. It makes me feel old." What would you prefer I call you? Min-Jae works fine. That seems unprofessional, sir. The corner of his mouth twitched. Still fighting, then. Good. Rose kept her expression neutral. Are you ready to order, or do you need a few minutes with the menu? I'll have whatever you recommend. The Galbai gym is popular. I didn't ask what's popular. I asked what you recommend. He leaned back in his chair, studying her. What would you eat if someone else was paying? It was a trap of some kind, though Rose couldn't see the shape of it yet. The jjajangmyeon is good. Comfort food. That's a Chinese Korean dish, not traditional Korean. You asked what I'd eat, not what's traditional. Fair enough. He closed the menu without looking at it. Jjajangmyeon, then. And bring 2 bowls. I'm working. Consider it part of your tip. I don't want your tips. Yes, I noticed. He pulled out his wallet, the same black leather one from last night, and extracted several bills. You threw away my business card. That was rude. Rose's stomach dropped. How did you? I have people who watch things for me. He arranged the bills on the table in a neat stack. But I'm a forgiving man. Here's a replacement offer. Have dinner with me on your break, and I'll triple what you make tonight in tips. No. You didn't let me finish. Triple your tips, and I'll forget about yesterday. There's nothing to forget. You assaulted me in front of my men. His voice remained calm, almost pleasant. In my world, that requires a response. I'm offering you a chance to make it a friendly response. Rose met his eyes. They were dark, unreadable, and absolutely serious despite his casual tone. You insulted me first. I made you a business proposition. You chose to interpret it as an insult. You offered to buy me like I was merchandise. And you responded with violence. He smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. Which, ironically, makes you more interesting than if you'd simply accepted or declined politely. So here we are. Here we are, Rose echoed. Her mind raced, trying to find the right response, the one that would make him lose interest without triggering whatever response he was threatening. I'll bring your jjajangmyeon. 1 bowl. And I respectfully decline your offer. Respectfully. He tested the word. That's new. Yesterday you were considerably less respectful. Yesterday you were considerably more insulting. Touché. He waved a hand. Go ahead. Bring my dinner. But the offer stands. Rose Okafor from Lagos, who sends money home to her family every month and works double shifts to afford her studio apartment in Seongsu-dong. Rose went cold. What? You told me to find out about you. I'm thorough. He picked up his phone again, dismissing her. Your younger brother, Chidi, is it? Studies engineering at University of Lagos. Your mother works as a nurse. Your father died 3 years ago, which is when you came to Seoul on a teaching English visa that you let expire when you realized waitressing paid better. Each fact landed like a physical blow. Rose's fingers clenched around the menu. How dare you? Information isn't a violation, Ms. Okafor. It's simply due diligence. He glanced up at her. I like to know who I'm dealing with. Especially when they're brave enough, or foolish enough, to hit me. You had me investigated. I had you researched. There's a difference. Not from where I'm standing. Then perhaps you're standing in the wrong place. He set down his phone again, giving her his full attention. Sit down. I'm working. Sit down. It wasn't loud, but something in his tone made Rose's knees unlock. She didn't sit, but she didn't walk away either. Better. Now listen carefully, because I'm only going to say this once. I don't forget people who challenge me. I especially don't forget people who do it as thoroughly as you did. So you have 2 choices. He held up one finger. Option 1. You avoid me, refuse to interact, and hope I get bored. Spoiler, I won't. I'll keep coming back. I'll keep leaving tips you'll keep refusing. Eventually, Manager Kim will ask you to reconsider, Because I'm the kind of customer restaurants can't afford to lose. Your principles will cost you your job. A second finger. Option 2. You accept that I find you interesting, let me take you to dinner like a civilized person, and we see where that goes. No expectations. No obligations. Just conversation. And if I choose neither? Stop. Then you're less intelligent than I thought. He leaned forward. This isn't about last night anymore, Rose. This is about the fact that you're the first person in 3 years to look me in the eye and tell me no. That's rare. I want to understand it. Maybe I'm just not interested in you. Maybe. He didn't sound convinced. Or maybe you're scared of what happens if you say yes. I'm not scared of you. Liar. But he said it almost fondly. You've been terrified since you walked in and saw me here. But you came over anyway, kept your spine straight, and told me no again. That's not courage without fear, that's courage despite it. And that, Ms. Okafor, is why I'm going to keep coming back until you understand that I'm not your enemy. Then what are you? I haven't decided yet. He picked up his phone again. Now please bring me my jajangmyeon before this conversation gets any more dramatic. And take these. He pushed the stack of bills toward her. Not a tip. Compensation for the time I've taken from your other tables. Rose looked at the money. Looked at him. Made a decision she'd probably regret. She picked up the bills, counted out exactly what her hourly wage would be for the 15 minutes they'd been talking, and left the rest on the table. I don't need compensation, she said. I need you to stop coming here. Not going to happen. Then I'll quit. And go where? His voice held genuine curiosity. You need this job. Your family needs this job. And jobs that pay under the table to foreign workers with expired visas aren't exactly common. Rose felt her face flush. You really are. Thorough, he finished. Yes. It's how I stay alive in my business. He softened slightly. Look, I'm not trying to threaten you. I'm trying to be honest. You have limited options. I'm offering to make your life easier, not harder. By stalking me. By taking an interest. He stood, and Rose realized again how tall he was, not towering, but solid, contained power that took up space without trying. Think about it. I'll be back tomorrow. Same time, same table. At some point, you're going to run out of creative ways to say no. You'd be surprised. I hope so. He pulled on his coat, expensive, black, perfectly tailored. I'll pay for the meal I didn't eat at the counter. Keep the money I left for your time. Or don't. Throw it away like you threw away my card. Either way, I'll see you tomorrow. He walked out without looking back. Rose stood frozen by table 14, holding her hourly wage in one hand and staring at the much larger sum he'd left behind. Around her, the dinner rush continued. Customers ordered. Servers delivered food. The world kept turning. But something had shifted. Young-suk appeared at her elbow. Well. His insane. His interested. Young-suk picked up the remaining bills, counted them, and whistled. 100,000 won. He left that after ordering nothing but water. I don't want it. Rose, that's almost $100. I don't want it. Young-suk studied her face, then carefully set the money back on the table. Okay. But you should know, Daejung and I have a bet going. About what? Whether you survive the week. Young-suk's expression was serious despite her light tone. He says no way. I say if anyone's stubborn enough, it's you. How comforting. I'm just saying, men like Kang Min-Jae don't chase. They acquire. If he's actually coming back tomorrow. She trailed off meaningfully. Then what? Then maybe you hit him harder than you thought. Min-Jae did come back the next day. And the day after that. Always the same table. Always the same calm presence that made other customers nervous without knowing why. He ordered different dishes but barely touched them, seemed more interested in watching Rose work than in eating, and left tips that grew progressively larger each time she refused them. By day 4, the other servers had started treating her like a curiosity. Is he really a gangster? Min-Jae whispered during a lull between lunch and dinner service. I don't know. I don't care. You should care. Dae-jung leaned against the counter. I asked my cousin who works in Gangnam. He says Kang Min-Jae is connected to the Songdo faction. Real organized crime, not just gang stuff. That's just a rumor, Young-suk said. Rumors don't drive a Bentley and have bodyguards. He doesn't have bodyguards here. That you can see. Dae-jung lowered his voice. My cousin says he's been connected to 3 suspicious deaths in the last 2 years. Rival gang members who went missing or turned up in the Han River. Nothing proven, obviously. But the pattern's there. Rose felt sick. Why are you telling me this? Because you need to take him seriously. Dae-jung looked genuinely concerned. Whatever game you're playing, refusing his money, ignoring him, it might seem like standing up for yourself. But men like that don't accept rejection. They see it as a challenge. So what should I do? Just give in? No. Young-suk cut in firmly. But maybe don't antagonize him either. Be polite. Serve him. Take his tips. And hope he gets bored. The problem was, Min-Jae didn't look bored. If anything, he looked more interested each time Rose refused him. On day 5, he brought a book. Rose approached his table warily. Can I get you something to drink? Bourbon. And before you ask, I don't want food recommendations. I've been reading about Nigerian cuisine. He turned the book so she could see the cover, some academic text on West African food culture. Tell me about jollof rice. It's rice. It's jollof. Helpful. He smiled slightly. Is it true that Nigerians and Ghanaians fight about whose version is better? It's not a fight. Ours is just objectively superior. Ah. Nationalism. Truth. Rose couldn't help the defensive note in her voice. Jollof rice was sacred. Ghanaian jollof is fine, but Nigerian jollof has better spice balance and, she caught herself. Why do you care? I'm trying to understand you. By reading about rice. By learning about where you come from. He closed the book. You've been in Seoul for 3 years. You work hard, send money home, keep to yourself. You have exactly 2 friends that you see regularly. Both Nigerian women you met at church. You don't date. You don't go to clubs. You work, sleep, and repeat. You're still having me followed. I'm paying attention. He paused. There's a difference. Not to me. Then let me explain it. Following you would be intrusive. Learning about you from observation and public information is just interest. Obsessive interest. 55. It's the only answer I have. He took a sip of coffee, grimaced slightly. Too hot. You challenged me. No one does that. Everyone in my world either fears me or wants something from me. You want nothing and fear me anyway. That's refreshing. I'm not a novelty. No. You're a woman with principles in a city that often rewards the lack of them. His dark eyes held hers. That's rare. I want to understand it. And I want to make sure you don't have to compromise those principles just to survive. It was the kindest thing he'd said to her, which made it the most dangerous. This is a game to you. No. His voice went hard. Games are trivial. This is an investment. In what? I don't know yet. He pulled out a folder from a bag beside him, slid it across the table. Employment contract. Hostess position at Moonlight, my restaurant in Gangnam. Salary is triple what you were making. Legal work visa sponsorship. Benefits. No expectations beyond your job description. Rose stared at the folder like it might bite her. There's always expectations. Read the contract. It's standard. If you find anything objectionable, we'll negotiate. And if I refuse? Then you refuse. He shrugged. You'll find other work eventually. Probably for less money. Possibly in worse conditions. Your brother's tuition will be harder to cover. You'll fall behind on rent. But you'll have your principles intact. You make survival sound like surrender. Sometimes they're the same thing. He stood, leaving the folder on the table. Read it. Think about it. Call me when you decide. I already decided. No. You came here. He smiled slightly. That wasn't no. That was convince me. So I'll give you time to convince yourself. He left cash on the table, too much, as always, and walked out. Rose sat alone in the cafe, staring at the folder. She opened it. The contract was exactly what he'd described. Fair salary. Clear responsibilities. Legal sponsorship. There was even a clause about a harassment-free workplace and a separate clause specifically stating that employment was not contingent on any personal relationship with management. It was professional. Legitimate. Almost suspiciously clean. Rose closed the folder. She needed this job. Her family needed this job. Her pride was expensive, but so was rent. But taking this job meant entering Min-Jae's world. Meant accepting that he'd won, somehow, even if the victory was wrapped in reasonable employment terms. Her phone buzzed. Her mother. Chidi's tuition is due next week. Can you send the money early? Rose closed her eyes. Sometimes survival was surrender. Moonlight occupied the entire second floor of a building in the heart of Gangnam. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the glittering streets below. The interior was all dark wood and soft lighting, the kind of elegant restraint that screamed expensive. Rose arrived for her first day in the most professional outfit she owned. Black slacks, white blouse, nervous energy barely contained. The manager, a woman in her 40s named Ms. Park, greeted her with cool efficiency. Mr. Kang said you'd be starting today. Your paperwork is in order. Yes. Good. Let me show you around. The tour took 30 minutes. The kitchen was immaculate. The staff was professional. Everything ran with the precision of a place where failure wasn't tolerated. Mr. Kang has high standards, Ms. Park said as they returned to the host stand. But his fair. Do your job well, no one bothers you. Make mistakes, and... She trailed off meaningfully. And what? Let's just say turnover here is low. People who work for Mr. Kang tend to stay. Ms. Park's expression was unreadable. One way or another. It wasn't reassuring. Rose's first week passed in a blur of reservation systems, seating charts, and greeting wealthy customers who barely glanced at her. The work was easy compared to waiting tables. No heavy trays, no running between kitchen and dining room, no customers propositioning her. Min-Jae didn't appear once. She should have been relieved. Instead, she found herself watching the entrance, wondering when he'd show up to collect on whatever unspoken debt she owed him. It was Young-suk who explained it to her. They met for coffee on Rose's day off, their first time seeing each other since Rose had left the old restaurant. He's giving you space, Young-suk said, stirring her latte. Letting you settle in. Making you think this is normal. Maybe it is normal. Rose. Young-suk gave her a look. Men like Kang Min-Jae don't do normal. He got you fired, then hired you himself. That's not kindness. That's strategy. Strategy for what? I don't know. But whatever game he's playing, you're a piece on the board. She leaned forward. Be careful. The fact that he hasn't made a move yet just means he's patient. Rose wanted to argue. Wanted to believe that Min-Jae had simply offered her a job and that was the end of it. But Young-suk was right. Men like Min-Jae didn't do anything without a reason. He appeared on her 10th day. Rose was seating a late dinner reservation when she felt eyes on her back. She turned and saw him sitting at the bar, watching her with that same clinical interest he'd shown from the beginning. Their eyes met across the restaurant. He raised his glass slightly, acknowledgement, not greeting. Rose's heart kicked against her ribs. She finished seating the customers, then walked to the bar with her professional smile firmly in place. Good evening, Mr. Kang. Will you be dining with us tonight? Eventually. He gestured to the stool beside him. Sit. You're on break in 5 minutes anyway. How do you know my schedule? I own the restaurant. He said it like it was obvious. Sit. Rose glanced at Ms. Park, who nodded permission. She Saturday. Min-Jae signaled the bartender. Whatever she wants. Water is fine. She'll have the Pinot Noir. The 2019. He turned to Rose. How's the job? Fine. Just fine. It's work. I do it well. That's all there is to say. Liar. But he smiled slightly. You hate it. Too easy. Not enough to do. You're bored. Rose kept her expression neutral. It's better than my last job. Better how? Less money and tips, fewer hours, no challenge. He took a sip of his drink. But it's legal and safe, so you tell yourself it's better. It is better. If you say so. The wine arrived. He nudged it toward her. You've been here 10 days. Haven't called me once. Haven't asked any questions. Haven't even complained about the job you clearly hate. I don't hate it. You're a terrible liar. He studied her. Why haven't you called? Why would I? Because you have questions. About me. About why I hired you. About what I want. He leaned closer. Ask. Rose took a sip of wine to buy time. It was excellent, smooth and complex in a way that made her previous wine choices seem like children's juice boxes. What do you want from me? Still trying to figure that out. That's not an answer. It's the truth. He swirled his whiskey. I thought I wanted to understand you. Now I think I just want to keep you close enough to figure out what comes next. That's unsettling. Honest, though. He set down his glass. You want me to lie? I can do that. I can tell you this is purely professional, that I hired you because you're qualified, that I have no personal interest whatsoever. That would be better. Better isn't always true. He turned on his stool to face her fully. Here's what's true, you fascinate me. Not because you're beautiful, though you are. Not because you're skilled, though you're that too. But because you're the only person in this city who treats me like I'm just a man instead of a monster or a god. You're neither. Exactly. His smile was quick and genuine. See? You do it without thinking. Everyone else chooses sides. You just see a man who insulted you and won't take no for an answer. An accurate assessment. Accurate and honest. I value both. He stood, leaving payment on the bar. I'm having a business dinner upstairs in the private room. 10 people, all tedious. Join us for dessert. I'm working. Ms. Park can cover the host stand. Consider it part of your job. Meeting your business associates. Learning how my world works. He pulled on his jacket. 8 o'clock. Don't be late. He left before she could refuse. Rose sat at the bar, staring at her wine. This was it, the moment where the trap closed. The innocent job became something else. The professional distance collapsed. She could refuse. Walk out. Find other work. But curiosity was a dangerous thing. And Rose, despite her better judgment, wanted to know what came next. At 8 o'clock, she went upstairs. The private room was elegant chaos. 10 men in expensive suits argued in rapid Korean about market shares and territorial disputes. Min-Jae sat at the head of the table, barely participating, his presence enough to keep the discussion from becoming violence. He looked up when Rose entered. Gentlemen, he said, and the room fell silent. My associate, Ms. Okafor. 10 pairs of eyes turned to her. Rose felt the weight of their assessment. Foreign, female, clearly not part of their world. Ms. Okafor handles international relations for my restaurants. Min-Jae continued smoothly, the lie delivered with perfect confidence. She'll be joining us for dessert. He gestured to the empty seat beside him. Rose sat, her spine straight, refusing to show the fear churning in her stomach. The men returned to their discussion. Rose caught fragments, real estate deals, protection arrangements, shipping schedules. Nothing explicitly illegal, but the subtext was clear. Min-Jae leaned toward her, Voice low. Smile. Look interested. Don't speak unless someone asks you a direct question. What am I doing here? Learning. He picked up his wine glass. And proving a point. What point? That you belong anywhere I say you belong. It should have been insulting. Instead, it felt like a challenge. Rose smiled at the room and settled in to survive. 2 hours later, the dinner ended. The men filed out, some nodding to Rose, others ignoring her completely. One, a heavy-set man with calculating eyes, paused by Min-Jae. Interesting choice, bringing her in. Ms. Okafor is talented. I'm sure. The man's gaze flickered to Rose. Foreign talent can be complicated. Only if you're not careful. Min-Jae's voice hardened slightly. I'm always careful. The man left. Rose and Min-Jae were alone in the private room. Well, he asked. What did you think? I think you used me to make some kind of statement. I did. Congratulations on your observational skills. What statement? That I make my own choices. Hire who I want. Bring who I want into my business. He poured himself more wine. Some of those men think women are decorative. I wanted them to see you and remember that I don't care what they think. I'm not a prop. No. You're a person I respect enough to put in a room full of dangerous men and trust you not to flinch. He met her eyes. That's rare. Rose stood. I should get back to work. Your shift ended an hour ago. Then I should go home. Rose. He didn't move, but something in his voice made her pause. Thank you. For coming. For sitting through that. It was the first time he'd thanked her for anything. You're welcome, she said, unsure what else to say. She left before he could see how much that simple gratitude had shaken her. The attack came 3 days later. Rose was closing up the host stand when 2 men appeared in the restaurant doorway. They moved with purpose, scanning the room until they found her. You're Rose Okafor. Yes. Come with us. Someone wants to talk to you. Rose's blood went cold. I don't think so. One of the men stepped closer. Wasn't a request. The restaurant was nearly empty, just a few stragglers finishing dessert. Ms. Park had already left. The bartender was in the back. Rose calculated her odds of screaming versus running. Neither looked good. If you want to talk to Mr. Kang. Not Kang. Someone else. The man grabbed her arm. Let's go. What happened next happened fast. The man's grip loosened. Someone yanked Rose backward. She stumbled, caught herself against the host stand, and looked up to see Min-Jae's driver, a man she'd seen occasionally but never spoken to, standing between her and her attackers. Gentlemen, the driver said calmly. You're in the wrong place. This doesn't concern you. It concerns Mr. Kang. Which makes it concern me. He pulled out his phone, showed them something on the screen. Your boss received a message 5 minutes ago. Check. One of the men checked his phone. His expression shifted. Shit. They left. Rose's legs felt like water. What just? Are you hurt? The driver, she thought his name was Jong, studied her with professional concern. No. What was that? A message. From people who don't like Mr. Kang. He gestured toward the back exit. Come. We're leaving. I need to. Now. Rose followed him through the kitchen and into the alley where a black car waited. Min-Jae sat in the back seat, phone to his ear, speaking rapid Korean. He saw her and ended the call. Get in. Rose got in. The car started moving before she'd fully closed the door. What's happening? She asked. Rivals. They thought taking you would give them leverage. Min-Jae's voice was tight with controlled anger. They were wrong. Taking me. You mean? Kidnapping. Yes. He finally looked at her. Are you hurt? No. Your driver stopped them. Jong does good work. Min-Jae's jaw clenched. This is my fault. I made you visible. Put you in that room. Gave them a target. Rose's mind raced. So what happens now? Now I make it clear that touching you has consequences. What kind of consequences? He didn't answer. The car pulled up to a building Rose didn't recognize. Smaller than she'd expected, unassuming from the outside. Jong opened her door. Where are we? Rose asked. Somewhere safe. Until I handle this. Min-Jae led her inside, up a narrow staircase, into an apartment that was clearly lived in but impersonal. Stay here. Jong will be outside. Don't leave until I come back. How long will that be? However long it takes. He paused at the door. I'm sorry, Rose. This wasn't supposed to happen. What was supposed to happen? I don't know. But not this. Then he was gone. Rose stood alone in the strange apartment, adrenaline still singing through her veins, and realized she'd just stepped fully into Min-Jae's world. There was no going back now. Rose spent 4 hours alone in the apartment before she stopped pacing and started exploring. The space was nice, expensive furniture, modern kitchen, floor-to-ceiling windows with curtains currently drawn. But it felt temporary, like a hotel room trying to be a home. No personal photos. No books. Nothing that suggested who actually lived here. She found the bedroom, king bed, empty closet, attached bathroom stocked with unused toiletries. The second bedroom had been converted into an office. Desk, computer, filing cabinets, all locked. In the living room, she found the only personal item, a photograph in a simple frame on the bookshelf. A younger Min-Jae, maybe early 20s, standing between two older people who had his same sharp features. Family, probably. They looked happy. The photograph looked old. Rose sat on the couch and tried to think rationally. She'd been targeted by criminals because of her association with Min-Jae. He'd whisked her away to a safe house. He was currently out handling the situation, which probably meant violence or threats or both. She should be terrified. She was. But underneath the fear was something else. Anger. At Min-Jae, for dragging her into this. At herself, for not seeing it coming. At the universe, for making survival so complicated. Her phone buzzed. A text from Young-suk. Are you okay? I heard something happened at Moonlight. Word traveled fast. Rose, I'm fine. Laying low for a bit. Young-suk, where? Rose looked around the apartment. She had no idea where she was. And even if she did, she wasn't sure she should say. Rose, somewhere safe. Young-suk, is he with you? Rose, no. Young-suk, be careful. Please. Rose, always. She set down her phone and stared at the ceiling. The door opened at 2 a.m. Rose had been dozing on the couch, television playing low in the background. She jerked awake, heart hammering, as Min-Jae walked in. He looked terrible. Jacket gone, shirt sleeves rolled up, blood on his collar. Not his blood, she thought. Or hoped. Are you hurt? Her voice came out rough with sleep. No. He crossed to the kitchen, poured himself a drink. Whiskey, straight, downed in one swallow. It's handled. What's handled? The people who threatened you won't do it again. He poured another drink, offered her the glass. She shook her head. He drank it himself. You're safe now. For how long? As long as I say so. He finally looked at her properly. You should sleep. Real bed, not the couch. I'm not tired. Liar. But he sat down in the chair across from her, exhaustion evident in every line of his body. You should be angry. I'm angry. Good. You should be. He leaned his head back. This is what my world looks like, Rose. Violence. Threats. Constant calculation. You walked into it because I was selfish enough to want you there. You didn't force me. Didn't I? He laughed. Bitter. I got you fired. Offered you a job you needed. Put you in a position where refusing meant struggling. That's force, just dressed up nicely. Rose pulled her knees up to her chest. You're right. You manipulated the situation. Used your power to back me into a corner. She met his eyes. But I still chose. Every step. I could have refused. Found other work. Left Seoul entirely. Why didn't you? Because I'm tired of running from difficult choices. And because. She paused, unsure how to finish that sentence. Because. Because you're infuriating and arrogant and you think everyone has a price. But you also look at me like I'm a person instead of a problem. And that's rare. Min-Jae was quiet for a long moment. I don't know how to do this. Do what? Care about someone who might actually get hurt because of me. He rubbed his face. In my world, people are assets or liabilities. Useful or dangerous. But you're. He trailed off. What? Complicated. He stood, moved to the window, looked out through a gap in the curtains. The men who tried to take you, they're small time. Thought kidnapping you would give them leverage over me. They were wrong, but they weren't entirely stupid. You are leverage. Because I care what happens to you. That's your weakness, not mine. It's both. He turned to face her. I can protect you. Keep you safe. But that means deeper into my world. Or I can let you go. Give you money, documentation, set you up somewhere far from Seoul. You'd be safe because you'd be invisible again. It was the first time he'd offered her genuine freedom. Rose stood, crossed to where he stood by the window. What do you want me to do? I want you to leave. Get safe. Forget you ever slapped me. His jaw clenched. But I'm too selfish to actually send you away. Then I'll decide for myself. She looked up at him. I'm staying. Rose. Not because you want me to. Not because I don't have other options. She met his eyes. Because running means they win. And I'm tired of letting powerful men decide what happens to me. Something shifted in his expression. You're insane. Probably. She smiled slightly. But at least I'm consistently insane. He laughed, actual, genuine laughter that transformed his face. God help me, I believe you. Then, before she could second-guess herself, Rose did something supremely stupid. She kissed him. It wasn't romantic. Wasn't soft. It was frustrated and furious and tasted like whiskey and poor decisions. Min-Jae froze for half a second. Then his hands came up to frame her face, and he kissed her back with an intensity that made her knees weak. When they broke apart, both breathing hard, Rose stepped back. That was stupid, she said. Phenomenally stupid, he agreed. I'm still angry at you. Good. I deserve it. He touched her cheek, gentle despite everything. But for the record, I'm angry at myself too. For what? For calling you a whore. For treating you like you were for sale. For every assumption I made before I knew you. His voice went rough. You deserved better than that. It was the apology she'd been waiting for since the beginning. The one she hadn't known she needed. Thank you, she whispered. Don't thank me. I'm still a terrible person. Probably. She smiled slightly. But you're honest about it. That counts for something. They stood there in the dim apartment, killers outside somewhere in Seoul, danger still real and close, and Rose felt something shift between them. Not love. Not yet. But maybe the beginning of understanding. Get some sleep, Min-Jae said finally. Tomorrow we figure out what happens next. What does happen next? I don't know. But we'll figure it out together. He left her in the bedroom and took the couch for himself, despite her protests. Rose lay awake in the darkness, her lips still tingling from the kiss, her mind racing through everything that had happened. She'd walked into a lion's den. But maybe, just maybe, she'd found something worth staying for. Morning came with the smell of coffee and the sound of Min-Jae arguing with someone on the phone in rapid Korean. Rose padded out of the bedroom to find him at the kitchen counter, showered and changed into fresh clothes someone must have brought while she slept. He looked up, gestured to the coffee pot, and continued his conversation. She poured herself a cup and waited. When he finally hung up, his expression was grim. We have a problem, he said. What kind of problem? The kind where my business partners think I'm compromised. He set down his phone. They know about you. They know I moved assets to protect you. They're questioning my judgment. Assets. Men. Resources. Attention. He ran a hand through his hair. In my world, showing weakness is dangerous. And protecting you looks like weakness. Rose's stomach sank. So what do they want? They want me to choose. The business or you. He laughed bitterly. As if people are interchangeable with profit margins. Maybe I should leave. No. His voice was sharp. That's exactly what they want. To prove they can dictate my choices. But if staying puts you at risk. I've been at risk since I was 15 years old. He crossed to her, took her hands. Listen to me. This isn't about you being worth it or not. This is about power. Control. If I back down now, I lose everything. Then what do we do? He was quiet for a long moment. Then, I have an offer for you. The one I should have made from the beginning. I'm listening. Leave Seoul. I'll give you money, enough to start fresh anywhere you want. Documentation. Contacts. You'd be safe, comfortable, free. Rose's chest tightened. And you? I stay and handle this. Rebuild my position. Prove I'm not compromised. He squeezed her hands. You get your life back. I get my empire back. Everyone wins. Except we never see each other again. That's the cost. Rose pulled her hands free, walked to the window. Seoul spread out below, glittering and indifferent. She'd spent 3 years in this city, working and surviving and sending money home. Never belonging. Never staying long enough to put down roots. Running had always been easier than fighting. But something had changed. No, she said. Rose. I said no. She turned to face him. You think I don't know what this is? You're trying to protect me by pushing me away. Making it my choice so you don't have to feel guilty. I'm trying to keep you alive. By erasing me from your life like I never existed. Her voice rose. I'm not a problem you can solve by throwing money at it. I'm a person. And I'm tired of men deciding what's best for me. This isn't about control. Isn't it? She stepped toward him. From the beginning, you've been trying to own this situation. Own me. The job, the protection, even this offer. It's all about you making decisions and me accepting them. What do you want me to do? Ask me what I want. The words rang in the quiet apartment. Min-Jae stared at her. What do you want? I want to stop running. I want to stand for something, even if it's inconvenient. Even if it's dangerous. Her hands clenched into fists. I spent 3 years being invisible, and you made me visible. For better or worse. I'm not going back. You could die. I could die anywhere. At least here I'd die as myself. He crossed to her in 2 strides, gripped her shoulders. This isn't a romance novel, Rose. This is real. My enemies are real. The danger is real. I know that. Then why? He stopped, seemed to deflate. Why would you choose this? Because I'm tired of being afraid. Because you're the first person in years to look at me and see someone worth fighting for. Because. She met his eyes. Because running means they win. And I'm done letting powerful people decide my worth. Min-Jae's hand slid from her shoulders to cup her face. You're going to get us both killed. Probably. I don't deserve this. You. Probably not. She smiled slightly. But you're stuck with me anyway. He kissed her then, desperate and grateful and terrified. When they broke apart, his forehead rested against hers. If you stay, he whispered, everything changes. Good. I'm tired of how things were. Rose. Stop trying to save me. Let me choose this. She pulled back to look at him properly. Let me choose you. Something broke in his expression. Okay. Okay. He took a shaky breath. But we do this my way. Protected. Safe. No unnecessary risks. Agreed. And you follow my lead when it comes to my business? Absolutely not. He laughed despite himself. Of course not. Why would you start now? They stood there in the morning light, two stubborn people who'd found each other through violence and pride, and chose to stay despite every rational reason not to. So what happens now? Rose asked. Now. Min-Jae's expression hardened into something dangerous. Now we show them what happens when they threaten what's mine. It should have been possessive. Should have made her angry. Instead, it felt like a promise. The meeting took place in a warehouse by the Han River, neutral territory, chosen by Min-Jae's rivals to make a point about his diminished power. Rose insisted on coming. You're insane, Min-Jae said for the third time. You've mentioned that. Rose checked her reflection in the car window. She'd dressed carefully, professional but not submissive, elegant but not apologetic. And I'm still coming. They're dangerous people. So are you. She turned to face him. And I'm tired of being protected like I'm fragile. If I'm choosing this life, I choose all of it. Min-Jae looked at her for a long moment. Then he nodded. Stay close to me. Don't speak unless I indicate. And if things go wrong? They won't. But if they do, Jong will get you out. No arguments. No promises. He smiled despite the tension. Why am I not surprised? The warehouse was exactly as grim as Rose expected. Concrete floors, dim lighting, the smell of river water and rust. 5 men waited inside, the same heavy-set man from the business dinner and 4 others Rose didn't recognize. They looked at her with undisguised contempt. Kang, the heavy-set man said. You brought your pet. Min-Jae's hand tightened briefly on Rose's arm, a warning to stay calm. Ms. Okafor is my business partner. She has a right to be here. Business partner. The man laughed. Is that what we're calling them now? Careful, Park. Min-Jae's voice went cold. You're already on thin ice. Am I? You moved 30% of your security resources to protect one woman. Your partners are questioning your priorities. Your enemies are circling. Park gestured around the warehouse. Face it. You're compromised. I'm focused. On a woman who slapped you in public. Who you've obsessed over for weeks. Who nearly got kidnapped because you couldn't keep your distance. Park shook his head. That's not focus. That's weakness. Rose felt Min-Jae tense beside her. She knew he wanted to respond with violence. It was written in every line of his body. But violence now would prove Park's point. So she stepped forward. Excuse me, she said clearly. Every head turned toward her. Min-Jae's hand tightened on her arm again. Don't, but she ignored him. Ms. Okafor, Park said with exaggerated courtesy. Do you have something to add? Yes, actually. Rose met his eyes. You say Mr. Kang is compromised because he protected me. I say you're threatened because he made a choice you didn't approve. Careful. I'm not finished. Her voice cut through his interruption. You think protecting one person is weakness. I think it shows he values loyalty over profit. You think caring about someone makes him vulnerable. I think it makes him human. And you're terrified of that. Silence fell across the warehouse. Park's face flushed red. You don't know what you're talking about. Don't I? I've spent weeks watching how your world works. Everyone fears everyone. No one trusts anyone. You call it business, but really it's just loneliness dressed up as power. She took another step forward. Mr. Kang chose differently. And that scares you. Rose, Min-Jae said quietly. A warning. She ignored him. You want him to choose between business and me? That's a false choice. Because the business you're offering, built on fear and isolation, it's dying anyway. You just can't see it yet. Park's hand moved toward his jacket. 3 things happened simultaneously. Min-Jae stepped in front of Rose. Jong appeared from the shadows, weapon drawn. And Park's own men hesitated, looking uncertain. She has a point, one of them said quietly. Park spun toward him. What? The old ways aren't working anymore. We've lost 3 territories in the past year. Our younger members are leaving. The police are pressing harder. The man, younger than the others, with shrewd eyes, looked at Min-Jae. Maybe Kang's not compromised. Maybe he's evolving. Evolving? Park's voice dripped contempt. Adapting, Min-Jae said quietly. Learning that power without humanity is just tyranny with better suits. He moved beside Rose, not in front of her. Rose is right. I chose differently. And if that makes me weak in your eyes, then we have different definitions of strength. This is ridiculous. Is it? The younger man cut Park off. I've watched Kang for 5 years. He's ruthless when necessary, fair when possible, and he's never asked his people to sacrifice something he wouldn't sacrifice himself. He looked at Rose, including his pride. Park realized he was losing the room. This is about business. No, Min-Jae said. This is about control. You want me to prove I'm not compromised by abandoning someone who challenged me. But the only person that proves anything to is you. Then what do you propose? Min-Jae was quiet for a moment. Then he smiled, the same dangerous smile Rose had first seen weeks ago. I propose we change the rules. 3 months later, Rose stood in her new restaurant, not Min-Jae's, genuinely hers, funded by a legitimate business loan he'd co-signed but didn't control. The walls were painted warm gold. Nigerian art hung alongside Korean prints. The menu featured fusion cuisine that Rose had spent weeks perfecting with a chef Min-Jae had introduced her to but hadn't chosen for her. It was small, personal, hers. Young Suk arrived early, gasping at the transformation. Rose, this is incredible. It's terrifying. Rose straightened a menu for the 3rd time. What if no one comes? They'll come. Young Suk hugged her. I'm so proud of you. The door opened. Min-Jae walked in, impeccable as always, carrying flowers. For the grand opening, he said, presenting them to Rose. You're early. I wanted to see it before the crowds arrive. He looked around, taking in every detail. It's perfect. It's small. It's yours. That makes it perfect. Rose set down the flowers and crossed to him. Thank you. For the loan. For the connections. For not trying to control this. I learned something from a very stubborn woman. He pulled her close. Power without trust is just control. And I'm tired of controlling everything. Look at you. Growing as a person. Don't tell anyone. It'll ruin my reputation. She laughed and kissed him, soft and certain. The door opened again. Customers began arriving, friends, neighbors, curious locals drawn by the word of mouth Min-Jae had quietly encouraged without demanding credit. Rose greeted them with genuine warmth, no longer performing service but offering hospitality. This was her space. Her rules. Her choice. Min-Jae watched from the bar, pride evident in his expression. Later, when the dinner rush had passed and the last customers were finishing their meals, Rose joined him. You know what I realized? She said. What? If I hadn't slapped you, none of this would exist. True. He smiled. Violence as a catalyst for personal growth. Very philosophical. Or very stupid. Both can be true. He raised his glass. To stupid choices that lead to unexpected places. Rose clinked her glass against his. And to stubborn people who refuse to be bought. Even when the offer is generous. Especially then. A customer approached, an older woman who'd been watching them all evening. Excuse me, she said to Rose. This food is wonderful. But I have to ask, is that Kang Min-Jae? Rose glanced at Min-Jae, who looked mildly alarmed. Yes, Rose said. I knew it. The woman beamed. My daughter works at Moonlight. She said you two were, well. She lowered her voice conspiratorially. She said you slapped him once. Is that true? Min-Jae looked at Rose. Rose looked at Min-Jae. They both started laughing. It's true, Rose admitted. And he deserved it, Min-Jae added. The woman laughed delightedly and returned to her table, already pulling out her phone to text someone. Well, Rose said. So much for keeping a low profile. Too late for that. Min-Jae stood, pulled her to her feet. But I wouldn't change it. Any of it. Not even the slap. Especially not the slap. He touched her cheek gently. It was the most honest thing anyone had done to me in years. It woke me up. To what? To the fact that I'd surrounded myself with people who were too afraid or too greedy to tell me the truth. You weren't either. You just saw a man being an asshole and responded accordingly. Very romantic. It is, actually. He kissed her forehead. You treated me like a person instead of a position. That's worth more than any empire. Rose leaned into him, surrounded by the restaurant she'd built, the life she'd chosen, the man who'd challenged everything she thought she knew about power and pride and survival. One slap had changed everything. Not because violence solved problems, it didn't. But because sometimes the most revolutionary act was refusing to accept the world as it was handed to you. Rose Okafor had slapped a mafia boss. And somehow, impossibly, built something beautiful from the aftermath. Not because she'd been saved, but because she'd saved herself. And taught a dangerous man that power without humanity was just another kind of poverty. Last question, Min-Jae said as they stood together in her restaurant. What? If you could go back to that night, knowing everything that would happen, would you still slap me? Rose considered. The fear, the danger, the upheaval. But also the growth, the choice, the freedom. Absolutely, she said. He smiled. Good answer. Outside, Seoul glittered in the darkness. Inside, Rose's restaurant hummed with life and laughter and the promise of something new. One slap had rewritten the rules. And Rose Okafor, who'd come to Seoul with nothing but pride and determination, had learned that sometimes the most valuable thing you own is the courage to say no. Even, especially, to men who aren't used to hearing it. The end.